The story. At the age of 35, I find myself in a family with two siblings, a 29-year-old sister and a 23-year-old brother. Our upbringing was shaped by our parents' strong adherence to religious and conservative values, and they were particularly concerned about maintaining a certain societal image. Initially, their aspiration was to have a son, and my arrival as a girl initially disappointed them. Despite their hesitations, they remained committed to their religious principles and proceeded with the pregnancy. Interestingly, my grandmother later disclosed that, troubled by my presence, my mother chose to have me live with her when I was only 2 years old. Being raised by my grandparents proved to be a true blessing. My grandfather, with boundless patience, guided me in learning how to ride a bike, a vivid memory. The thrill of pedaling independently for the first time, deeply imprinted in my mind. Those days of bike riding created a lasting and strong connection between us. Meanwhile, my grandmother shared her gardening expertise with me. I acquired the skill of tending to plants, observing flowers blossom, and savoring a piece of nature. The knowledge she imparted during those gardening days remains valuable to me. Interestingly, my parents never took the initiative to visit me during this period. It wasn't until I reached the age of 7, and inquiries arose about my absence, that they chose to reintegrate me into their home. Despite my hesitation, I departed from the stability and warmth provided by my grandparents' care. The reunion was characterized by their limited involvement in my formative years. 3 years down the line, my parents were overjoyed to find out that another child was on the way. However, their happiness was short-lived upon discovering it would be another girl. Despite their initial dismay, they exhibited a surprisingly high level of acceptance, a departure from their reaction to my own birth. Fortunately, my sister didn't experience the same separation I went through. She was raised by our parents. The disparity in the treatment between me and my sister was evident. I discovered myself shouldering a multitude of household chores and responsibilities, an endless list that appeared tailored to fulfill my parents' expectations. In stark contrast, my sister experienced a more relaxed set of rules. The expectations on her were noticeably lighter, and my parents were more lenient when it came to assigning household duties. It appeared that my parents had extracted valuable lessons from their earlier parenting experiences and chosen a different approach with my sister. A notable instance of this was their approach to our education. Throughout my school years, I encountered immense pressure to excel in every subject, as my parents held high expectations for my academic performance. Any deviation from top grades resulted in disappointment. They enrolled me in numerous extracurricular activities, urging me to excel in every endeavor. In sharp contrast, as my sister embarked on her educational journey, the ambience was notably more laid back. Though her education was still a priority, the intensity was toned down. She was given the liberty to delve into her interests at her own rhythm, and the strict regulations that characterized my academic journey were not imposed upon her. The most evident distinction, though, was in the way achievements were commemorated. When I achieved something significant, it usually garnered a nod of approval or a brief acknowledgement. Conversely, when my sister accomplished something, the entire family celebrated as if it were a significant milestone. These differences left me wrestling with a sense of bewilderment. I found it challenging to grasp why the same parents would employ such contrasting approaches to raising their children. Growing up in an environment where I felt constantly scrutinized, while observing my sister relishing a more carefree upbringing, was unquestionably difficult. However, I deliberately avoided holding any grudges against her, acknowledging that my sister bore no responsibility for the parenting choices made by our parents. Despite the difficulties, I stayed unwavering in my support for her and endeavored to be a positive influence in her life. Our bond remained resilient, and our closeness persisted. Jump ahead 6 years, and a significant shift occurred with the arrival of my brother. In celebration of finally having a son, my parents hosted an extravagant feast. Since the day my younger brother came into existence, it became clear that he was destined for exceptional treatment. Adorned in stylish attire, surrounded by lavish toys, and residing in an incredibly cool room, surpassing anything my sister and I had, he quickly became the focal point of our parents' affection. They spared no expense, acquiring premium baby essentials such as luxurious strollers and an opulent crib. The lavish treatment extended beyond tangible possessions. Our parents meticulously recorded his every step, capturing numerous photos and videos to commemorate his baby milestones. On the flip side, the celebrations were noticeably muted when it came to my sister and me. In the routine of daily life, our parents were more engrossed with him, consistently participating in doctor's appointments and playdates, always by his side. Meanwhile, our grandparents took on a more substantial role in the lives of my sister and me. As my brother matured, the unequal treatment endured, influencing the dynamics of our family and presenting challenges. He was often exempted from various household chores that my sister and I were required to manage, with our parents frequently granting him exceptions. Basic daily responsibilities that were integral to our routine were disregarded in his case. His birthdays and special occasions turned into extravagant celebrations, marked by elaborate parties and pricey gifts. Naturally, this consistent inequality left my sister and me feeling consistently excluded. While I had grown somewhat accustomed to this treatment, it was the first time my sister experienced the same neglect I had endured as a child. To navigate through this unequal treatment, we sought comfort in spending extended periods on vacations at our grandparents' home. Numerous afternoons were dedicated to playing in their backyard or sitting by the fireplace, engrossed in their stories. Our grandparents evolved into our confidants, creating an environment where we felt at liberty to divulge our fears, dreams, and the challenges we faced at home. Specifically, my grandmother consistently reassured us that we were not alone. During my teenage years, my parents labeled me a rebellious child because of my openly divergent political beliefs. Every attempt to articulate my perspectives resulted in tears from my mom, who asserted that I was causing her distress. Any expression of sadness or anger in her presence triggered her own outbursts, during which she declared an inability to endure my company when I was in such a state, leading to prolonged periods of icy silence. As my sister grew older, she started asserting her individuality, but also struggled with emerging mental health issues. Despite the difficulties she encountered, my mom staunchly resisted seeking treatment for her, claiming that it wasn't genuinely necessary. However, when my sister dealt with panic attacks or anxiety, my mother would, paradoxically, tell her that she was placing a burden on her. On a specific evening, domestic tensions reached an intolerable climax. Our parents incessantly condemned my sister and me, labeling us as disappointments who should never have come into existence. The severity of their words became stifling, pushing us to the brink. Adrift and emotionally battered, my sister and I took a courageous step to depart from home. Swiftly packing our bags, we sought sanctuary at our grandparents' house. When our parents learned of our location, they arrived, insisting on our immediate return. Nevertheless, the ambience at our grandparents' house shifted unexpectedly. Rather than yielding to our parents' requests, our grandmother reproached them for their ill treatment. In reply, my father callously asserted that he had supplied us with food and shelter, questioning what more we could possibly desire from him. The heartless comment prompted an unprecedented reaction from our typically composed grandfather. Uncharacteristically displaying anger, he confronted our father, insisting that he should feel ashamed for treating his own children so poorly. Taking it a step further, he warned of involving Child Protective Services if any harm befell us. The prospect of losing custody of my still young brother at that time deeply unsettled our parents. Grandpa persistently championed our cause, asserting that we deserved more supportive parents. He directly challenged my mother, highlighting that, as his daughter, she had never endured such cruelty from him. The visible embarrassment on my mother's face underscored the significance of the confrontation at our grandparents' residence. It proved to be a turning point, representing the initial instance where someone had stood up on our behalf. This impactful moment triggered substantial changes at home in the aftermath of that night. Our parents, particularly our father, displayed a noticeable increase in vigilance, seemingly driven by the apprehension triggered by Grandpa's stern admonition. As my sister matured, she started asserting her individuality and contending with mental health challenges. Despite her difficulties, my mother staunchly resisted pursuing treatment for her, maintaining that she didn't genuinely require it. Nevertheless, whenever my sister grappled with panic attacks or anxiety, my mother branded her as a burden. During one especially distressing night, our parents released a torrent of severe words, categorizing us as disappointments and expressing remorse over our mere existence. Overwhelmed by their ceaseless criticism, my sister and I reached the conclusion that we could no longer endure such circumstances. Overwhelmed by a sense of confusion and pain, we gathered our belongings and sought solace at our grandparents' home. Our parents, upon learning of our location, insisted on our immediate return. When they confronted our grandparents, my grandmother reproached them for their ill treatment. In an unusual departure from his typically composed demeanor, our grandfather spoke up emphatically, chastising our father for his mistreatment of us. He even went to the extent of warning that he would bring in Child Protective Services if any harm came to us, This strong admonition visibly unsettled our parents, particularly given our brother's young age. This confrontation served as a pivotal moment. While our brother continued to receive additional affection, the incessant yelling and punishment directed at us decreased to some extent. Upon reaching the age of 18, I encountered a new challenge when I voiced my intention to pursue a college education. My parents adamantly resisted, emphasizing conventional gender roles and asserting that, as a girl, my primary focus should be on marriage and children. Undeterred by their disapproval, I enrolled in a 4-year university and secured a scholarship through the honors program. Choosing this path added more tension to my relationship with my parents, yet I persisted. Juggling part-time work while in college, I saved money and honed my skills in navigating the complexities of adulthood. After graduating, I obtained a full-time job, allowing me to move into a shared apartment with roommates. Interaction with my parents gradually waned, and I discovered myself distancing from them. Although birthdays and holidays elicited only generic well wishes, my inclination to seek familial support during life's trials was hampered by the realization that they remained indifferent. Over time, I deliberately opted to entirely exclude them from my life. The sole exception was my sister. When she encountered resistance in pursuing higher education, I extended an invitation for her to stay with me to prevent her from being ousted by our parents. As my sister grew older, she started asserting her independence, while also grappling with the onset of mental health challenges. Despite this, my mom resisted the idea of seeking treatment for her, insisting that it was unnecessary. Yet, when my sister struggled with panic attacks or anxiety, my mother deemed her a burden. During a particularly challenging evening, our parents criticized us, branding us as disappointments who should never have come into existence. Faced with overwhelming emotions, my sister and I chose to leave home and sought solace at our grandparents' house. Our parents managed to locate us, insisting on our return, but our grandmother rebuked them for their mistreatment. In an unusual departure from his usual composure, our grandpa raised his voice for the first time, warning of involving Child Protective Services if our parents inflicted harm upon us. This confrontation marked a pivotal moment, being the first instance where someone defended us, leading to a change in our parents' behavior. Although our brother continued to receive preferential treatment, the incessant yelling and punishments diminished after our grandparents stepped in. Upon reaching the age of 18, my parents opposed my decision to attend college, discouraging me with arguments rooted in traditional gender roles. Undeterred, I challenged their stance and successfully obtained a scholarship for a 4-year university. Navigating the challenges of living independently during my college years imparted valuable lessons in self-reliance, as I balanced academics, part-time employment, and my personal life. Even after completing my education and securing a full-time job, my connection with my parents weakened, marked by sporadic calls and routine greetings on special occasions. I intentionally distanced myself from them, opting not to share the intricacies of my life. An exception was made for my sister, who faced similar parental opposition when expressing her desire for higher education. In her case, our parents went as far as threatening to expel her if she pursued further studies. I welcomed her into my home, putting in relentless effort to provide support for both of us. Our connection deepened, and I found comfort in fostering a nurturing atmosphere for her. In the meantime, our brother encountered fewer obstacles, as our parents proudly facilitated his college education and established a fund for his academic pursuits. The disparity in treatment was painful, but my sister and I remained resolute in our determination to overcome the challenges. Throughout the highs and lows, our grandparents served as a steadfast pillar of support. A couple of years ago, the passing of our grandmother led to a reunion with our parents. Their coldness and lack of recognition nearly brought me to tears. Following our grandmother's demise, my sister and I endeavored to be a source of comfort for our grandfather, dedicating more time to him despite our hectic schedules. Our interactions with our grandfather evolved into a routine, characterized by shared meals, porch conversations spanning childhood anecdotes to recent events, and dedicated afternoons assisting him with household chores or enjoying the local park. In the midst of one such meal, my grandfather pleasantly surprised me by expressing pride in my nurturing care for my youngest sister. His words took me by surprise, and the idea that I possessed the potential to change the world someday was both surprising and touching. Even though I understood they were just words, a wave of emotions engulfed me, and tears filled my eyes. Grandpa tenderly patted my head, reassuring me that my sister was lucky to have an older sibling like me. The pride gleaming in his eyes became an unforgettable image etched in my memory. Our brother, enjoying our parents' favored treatment, kept his distance, possibly apprehensive of the repercussions we were enduring. From time to time, my sister and I stayed in touch with him, discovering through relatives and cousins about the myriad privileges our parents bestowed upon him. These included financing multiple used cars and covering the deposit for a house, allowing him to live independently. Just last year, they even funded a trip to New York City for him and his girlfriend, asserting that he deserved a break due to his purportedly demanding work. Lately, my sister, who had been in a relationship with her college sweetheart Robert, aged 29, recently announced their engagement. Hearing the news filled me with profound happiness, and I couldn't be more thrilled for her. The happiness and affection radiating between my sister and Robert were unmistakable, evident in each smile and shared glance. The enchanting proposal elevated her to cloud nine, joyfully displaying the exquisite ring to anyone eager to partake in her happiness. Social media served as the stage to broadcast their joy, with relatives stumbling upon the news and inundating our phones with calls and texts. Unexpectedly, our parents, who had previously displayed minimal interest in our lives, suddenly became keen to share in our happiness. The sudden surge of attention elicited a blend of emotions, surprise, bewilderment, and maybe a touch of irritation. Why this sudden interest after keeping a distance for so long? Perplexed, my sister and I exchanged glances as we navigated through the onslaught of messages. Upon receiving a call from our mom, who expressed joy over the engagement, my sister graciously thanked her. However, the conversation took a challenging turn as Mom launched into a series of questions about Robert and expressed a wish to meet him. Aware of our parents' history, my sister attempted to navigate the situation with care, citing her busy work schedule and the chaos of wedding planning. Yet Dad, likely part of the conversation, asserted their entitlement to meet the man she intended to spend her life with. Despite the unexpected request, my sister eventually consented to a meeting, but not without a condition: she would bring me along. To our surprise, our parents gave their consent, and the day of the meeting arrived. Anxiously, we found ourselves at our parents' place, uncertain of what lay ahead. The anticipation of confronting them in this scenario was both fascinating and anxiety-inducing. The atmosphere brimmed with tension from the outset. Our parents welcomed us with smiles that seemed strained, as they struggled to uphold a semblance of normalcy. The discernible warmth in Mom's smile directed at Robert did not escape notice. As we gathered to converse, the unease of reconnecting with our parents after an extended period was unmistakable. The pretense of portraying a united and happy family, particularly in Robert's presence, intensified the discomfort. Given Robert's long-term relationship with my sister during college, he likely had insight into our family dynamics. Recognizing the tension, Robert endeavored to shift the discussion towards more lighthearted subjects. He divulged information about his job and hobbies, aiming to alleviate the palpable tension. Nevertheless, when our conversation shifted to my sister and Robert's impending wedding, the atmosphere unexpectedly changed. Our parents subtly alluded to their wish to play significant roles in the wedding ceremony. They conveyed their desire for Dad to escort my sister down the aisle and for Mom to play a vital role in the ceremony. The bewilderment on my sister's and my faces was apparent. Dad went into detail about his vision, stressing the importance of presenting a united front in front of relatives to prevent any potential family embarrassment. Mom affirmed with a nod, emphasizing their desire for Robert's family not to view my sister as lacking parental figures. As their conversation unfolded, my sister and I exchanged meaningful glances, realizing that our parents had summoned us with a hidden agenda. Concerned about not receiving a wedding invitation and eager to sidestep any inquiries from relatives that could potentially harm their social standing, they harbored these fears. The awareness of their hidden motives left me shaking my head in disbelief. Despite their well-intentioned but misguided suggestions, my sister graciously expressed her thanks. Nevertheless, she serenely stated that she had already reached a decision regarding who would accompany her down the aisle. This prompted Dad to express curiosity about the alternative choice for this significant role in her wedding. Sporting a self-assured smile, my sister delivered the bombshell. Grandpa would be the one escorting her down the aisle. The revelation caught our parents off guard, and they visibly struggled to mask their surprise. The atmosphere in the room quickly transformed from anticipation to anger as our parents confronted the reality that their daughter had opted for our grandfather over them for a crucial role in the wedding. The ensuing conversation unfolded as follows: "But sweetheart, it's tradition for a father to walk his daughter down the aisle." You can't break tradition, protested Mom. Well, Mom, I don't care about breaking traditions. I want Grandpa to be a part of this special moment. He's been there for us when you both forgot that you had daughters. You can only attend as a guest at the wedding, like many other relatives. You can't just sideline us like this. We're your parents, my sister firmly asserted. Unable to contain my laughter any longer, I burst into loud laughter, startling everyone in the room. Staring directly at my dad, I straightforwardly informed him that he and Mom had neglected their parental responsibilities, subjecting us to mistreatment over the years. As a result, they had no authority to dictate my sister's choices. The truth struck a nerve, and our parents, infuriated and humiliated, erupted in yelling directed at both me and my sister. They asserted that we were jeopardizing their reputation. Nevertheless, our indifference remained steadfast. My sister held her position, highlighting that they couldn't abruptly assume a parental role after neglecting us for so long. I joined in, emphasizing that their past actions carried consequences, and rewriting history was not an option. My sister made it clear that our parents would have a restricted role at the wedding, akin to any other guest. They were invited to attend, but their participation would be kept to a minimum. The gathering ended on a bitter and tense tone, with my sister resolute in her choice. Walking away, I couldn't shake the blend of admiration for my sister's courage and disappointment in our parents' failure to comprehend the repercussions of their past actions. Since the meeting, we've faced relentless criticism from our parents and other relatives, labeling us as selfish and cruel for not letting our dad walk my sister down the aisle. Am I in the wrong for being honest with our parents and standing by my sister's choice to have Grandpa escort her down the aisle? Update 1. Several hours have elapsed since I recounted the story, and the response has been incredibly positive. Numerous people have shown interest in our grandpa, and my sister has now updated him about the engagement. His heartfelt congratulations added a touch of joy to the situation. Nevertheless, he is still unaware of my sister's intention to ask him to walk her down the aisle. We've chosen to reveal this news to him in person during our upcoming visit this weekend, eager to see his reaction. On the contrary, our parents continue to send numerous angry messages. Taking it a step further, Dad extended his reach to Robert on Facebook, crafting an extensive message imploring him to persuade my sister to reconsider. He stressed the traditional role of the father, asserting that my sister had no entitlement to choose her grandpa. Infusing a manipulative tone, he went on to threaten Robert, claiming that if my sister proceeded with her plan, they would boycott the wedding. In reply, Robert exhibited remarkable clarity and resilience. He reaffirmed his support for my sister, stating that she had the autonomy to make her own decisions, and whether our parents attended the wedding was entirely up to them. Robert's direct response probably startled our dad, who may have anticipated a more compliant reaction. The mental picture of his response brings a smile to my face. I'll share an update after our weekend visit with our grandpa. Update 2. Over the weekend, my sister and I drove down to our grandpa's residence, filled with anticipation to share the news with him. When my sister eventually disclosed that she had something important to tell him, he looked at us with eyes brimming with curiosity and warmth. Inhaling deeply, she uttered, "I want you to walk me down the aisle on my big day. You're the one who has always been there for us, and I can't imagine anyone else doing it." Grandpa's eyes filled with tears, and he enveloped my sister in a tight hug. His voice, laden with emotion, expressed the deep honor he felt being asked. Observing this poignant moment, my eyes couldn't refrain from filling up, and we all embraced in a group hug. Grandpa continuously expressed his gratitude to my sister, conveying how deeply meaningful it was to him. We assured him that it was the least we could do to reciprocate the love and support he had generously bestowed upon us over the years. We proceeded to describe how we had conveyed the news to our parents and outlined their response. Worried that they might redirect their anger towards Grandpa, we expressed our concern to him. However, Grandpa chuckled and assured us that he could handle our mom. He insisted that nothing would deter him from walking my sister down the aisle. My sister let out a sigh of relief, and we dedicated the evening to assisting Grandpa with various tasks around the house. With my sister's wedding day drawing near, we're immersed in the planning process. From selecting a theme that resonates with her personality to settling on the ideal wedding dress and meticulously organizing guest seating, every detail is receiving thoughtful attention. I eagerly anticipate witnessing my stunning sister saying I do to the love of her life very soon. Update 3. It has been 3 months since my previous update, and I apologize for the delay. Life has been bustling, mainly due to the eagerly awaited wedding day that has finally arrived. The event unfolded exactly as my sister had envisioned, and then some. The venue looked absolutely stunning, just as we had envisioned. Seats were filled with guests, generating an atmosphere of joy and anticipation. Yet, a noticeable void lingered during the ceremony. Our parents were absent. In line with our decision to restrict their role at the wedding, they opted not to attend. Although we respected their choice, it was a bittersweet moment, recognizing their absence at such a significant event in my sister's life. Nevertheless, the ceremony itself was truly magical. In her wedding dress, my sister looked radiant as she stood alongside Grandpa. The love and pride in his eyes were unmistakable as they strolled down the aisle together. Opting for Grandpa to play this crucial role proved to be the correct decision, evident in the joy it brought to my sister. The atmosphere was imbued with warmth, laughter, and shared happiness among all those present. The vows exchanged between my sister and Robert were a lovely commitment to a lifetime of love and companionship. The celebration continued into the night with dancing, laughter, and sincere toasts. Since the wedding, life has been serene for us. My sister and I intentionally chose to block our parents, preventing them from bringing their negativity and drama into our lives. In spite of the challenges, we consistently make visits to our grandpa. The path has been demanding, but as we progress, our emphasis stays on creating a life abundant with positivity and surrounded by those who truly care. Hopefully, this concludes the final update. Stay tuned for more stories from our channel.